my last video, we turned this thoroughly one-star space into a beautiful outdoor living room, but it's missing a lot of the detail and the charm to make it feel really cozy. So in this video, we're gonna fix that. I'm gonna be adding a lot more texture and pattern over on this side of the garden, and we're also gonna be sorting out the mess that is behind you. And with all those fine details, we're gonna turn this respectable 3-star hotel terrace into a perfect 5 stars. And our first project is over here. I mounted this terrace a couple weeks ago, and this was supposed to be a very easy start to this makeover. Throw up a trellis to cover this weird textured wall, paint it two-tone like the wall behind, and then I was gonna buy a flower box and some climbing plants, and then over the next couple months and into spring, see this area flourish. But I had my eye on this planter from IKEA, and it's just not available anywhere. I tried to find something similar I could just buy off the shelf, but I can't find anything that is making my heart sing as much as this flower box. So I'm gonna make it. Which brings me to my third angle of the video so far. This recycling box storage was from our old flat, and it's not really fit for purpose anymore. We don't need to keep recycling boxes out here. We just need some garden storage. So I have bought some new cabinets to go along this wall that will hide this toilet pipe and hopefully look a lot more clean. And this isn't in the best condition. I don't think I could resell it. So I'm going to dismantle it for parts, and whatever wood I can salvage from this, I'm going to use to make the flower box. I thought the legs were looking a little spindly when I brought it in, so I decided to chop them down before I installed it. But I am so proud of this. It came out so much better than I was expecting. Can you believe that this was my old rotten garden storage? I'm really looking forward to seeing all of this grow over the coming months. And also my cabinets arrived for along this wall. These are just cheap and cheerful metal cabinets from IKEA, but they do such a good job of cleaning up all of my crap and hiding that horrible toilet pipe. I think it would actually make a really nice bar. I might in the future add a top all the way along it. Also, the wall is still an eyesore. I know, I'm gonna get a professional to handle that before winter sets in. But I think we've done enough in this corner now. Let's turn our attention back to the conversation area. This area desperately needs a coffee table to unite all of the seating. I used to have this dining table here, this big yellow metal one. It's very rusty, but I'm hoping I could repurpose the top of that for this coffee table here. So let's head to the workshop and see if it's salvageable. I think I'm probably gonna need some specific tools to get rid of all of this rust. But firstly, I'm just gonna use what tools I have here and see if I can get away with that before buying new things. Okay, that is much I can do with the tools I have at hand. I am going to buy a wire brush disc for my angle grinder to take all of this rusted area back to bare metal. On the top side, there is only one spot of rust, so I don't want to have to take off all of the paint because then I'll be doing that for all of the top. But with the right combination of rust converters and primers, hopefully I should be able to get it looking nice and smooth and also protected. But for now, we're going to move on to the base design. This did originally have 4 legs, and they have these 4 screw points in each of them. So I'm going to use that as the position for me to attach the new base. But I really don't know what I want to do with it beyond that. So I'm going to sit down, draw some ideas, see what material I have, if there's any kind of treated timber I have that I could just use for this. I don't want it to be too complicated or too tricky to make. I just want it to be able to fit in with the style of the rest of the space. Okay, I think I've come up with a design for this base that uses just material I have here, which is wonderful. I have a bunch of this treated 1x2 timber. So I'm going to use that to make a cross-shaped base to connect all of these little screw bits. Yes, having a design where a lot of the wood touches a lot of the metal is probably a bad idea for rust in the future, but it's the easiest design I can think of, and we can just replace it in the future if it goes wrong. And then I'm going to double up some pieces of this to make them kind of 2x2s, and that will form the 4 legs I'm going to place between the 2 screw holes. And then I'm also going to cut out a circle of plywood. I think I have some good scrap marine plywood for this. And that is going to sit closer to the floor on the legs. So that will give the base much more stability. It will make the table not look so top heavy, and it'll give me a shaded spot to put things in the garden. Okay. To attach the 2 pieces that make the cross, I'm doing a half lap joint. So I'm playing with the depth stop on my miter saw to try and get it to cut exactly halfway through the material. Then I can hog out the same amount on each of the pieces and flip one of them over, and they should fit into each other perfectly. Then I secured them with a little wood glue. All right, we are back at it trying to revive this tabletop. I came in the other day after I had got these twisted wire brushes for the angle grinder, and I tried doing some cleaning up of the metal. And although it worked, it was terrifying, and I don't have the patience to do that for all of this. This is very heavy and very scary, and there's lots of sparks, and I don't know, I just feel like I'm gonna have an accident. So I also tried out this product that I got from Hammerite called Crust, and this is a rust converter. So you put it on rust and wait a couple of hours, and then you need to apply some kind of top coat over it to actually protect it, but it should stop the rust from kind of festering. It doesn't create the best texture, so I think on the spot of rust I have on the other side, I might try and use this or try and do it a different way, but I'm going to use this for all of the rust on the underside. I think it will be safer and easier for me. I still have some crumbly bits, especially along the edge, so I'm going to use my orbital sander to clean those up before I apply this. You might say that I'm kind of crazy for putting this much effort into reclaiming something that obviously is a bit of junk. But environmentally, I think it's our responsibility to restore things rather than replace them where we can. But more than that, I'm just really stingy. I simply don't want to pay for a table if I can figure out how to make a table from stuff I already have. And I also think that just gives the piece more kind of story and more heart. Like if you fill your home with stuff you've bought from HomeSense, it's not going to feel very personal. But if I have this and I get to say, oh yeah, that was once that yellow dining table that I had in my old garden. Do you remember? I tried to strip all the rust off it and failed. So just kind of used some amazing chemical to convert it. And then I painted it. And then after that, I hand painted a design on the top. And now it's this really special piece. And it doesn't need to have been made from the best materials because, it's got a lot of heart in it. While that rust converter is rust converting, let's move back to the base. So you saw me make this cross-shaped thing earlier, and that matches the metal cross shape on the tabletop. I've just made this little jig to help me align where I will need to screw for the bolts that will attach this to the table. But I have also made the legs that are going to sit between where the bolts are. To make these, I took 2 long strips of this same pressure-treated timber and glued them together. And then this morning I cut them to length and squared them up a little bit on my table saw. To be honest, they're still looking kind of messy and rubbish. I wish I had chunkier legs here. But I think committing to the idea of just using whatever I have around instead of buying new stuff for this is the right way to go. I don't need to overcomplicate it. So now we have these 4 pieces and I know where they're going to be positioned. I can now calculate the size of the circle I need to cut that's going to form that support shelf thing. I also think I'm going to get my router and add a little round over to all of these edges to soften them up a little bit. Okay, let's go with all that. I cut off this piece of exterior grade plywood and taped it down to my workbench. I drew lines from each corner to find the center of the board and taped down the pivot point for my jig. I love this router jig by Tamar from 3x3 Custom, but I did need to use every single attachment to be able to cut a circle this big, and then I kind of ran out of energy. I'm taking a little tea break from all of this fiddling with my jig. I've decided I'm just not going to do any routing today. It's not even that complicated, but it is dangerous and you should only do it when you're really up for it, and I just feel a little bit too tired. So I'm just going to drink my tea, and when I'm finished with this, the rust converter will be finished converting the rust, and I will do a coat of paint on the tabletop. Okay, let's do some painting. This crust stuff is amazing. It went on like a milky white and then it went this like electric blue, and now it has dulled to a black, which I think means it's done its job. I put some temporary screws in where I'm going to be bolting the base in, just because I don't want to get paint inside those threads and get them all messed up. So I can paint over these and then I can take them out and it should all be good. I am using Zinsser All Coat in a matte black. I would usually cover everything with a Zinsser primer because I don't trust paints that say that they have the primer built in, but Zinsser are the primer people, so I'm going to trust them this one time. Okay, I have moderately overcomplicated this. So to attach the circle to the legs, I want to do a similar thing to what I did for the cross-shaped base, where I want to cut a bit out of the legs and slot it in, because that'll just give it a lot more support. But because this is rounded, I won't be able to slot it in very easily, so I need to cut notches out of the circle as well as cutting notches out of the legs. I think I've done all of the maths now. So I'm going to get my least favorite tool, the jigsaw, and cut these out, and then I will be able to use a depth stop on the miter saw to do the same thing for the legs. And then we should be able to slot all the pieces together, secure them with some screws, slap some of that black paint on this, and then the base should be done. I've discovered something which has thrown a little wrench into the plan. The assembly of the base went very well. Everything is square, everything is in the right position. You might think that this shelf looks a little high, and that is because I'm not 100% sure this is the final height I want for the table, and I wanted some space to be able to make it shorter underneath. It was all going to plan, and then I brought the top over so I could figure out what bolt size I need to secure it, and the bolts aren't all in the right position. The cross on the underside of the top is perfectly in line with the cross on my base. It's just the bolts are positioned different amounts from the center of that cross. It just means that on these two legs, I will be able to secure all 4 bolts, but on this leg, I will only be able to secure the outer 2, and on that leg, I will only be able to secure the inner 2. It is not the end of the world, but it has reminded me that I need to check every single measurement on every single piece I have and not assume that it was actually manufactured correctly. Anyway, moving on. The next step is to paint the base. Before that, I have to cut off these dowels that I used to plug the screw holes. Although I'm kind of liking the way they're looking, it's just like adding a little something. So I'm still going to cut them, but I maybe will leave them a little proud so that you can see that maybe some kind of joinery has been done here. And after we have our first coat on the base, we are going to return our attention to the tabletop. Coffee table is here and it looks marvelous. I am happy with the height I chose. It's low enough that it doesn't overwhelm the space, but it's high enough that you could quite easily eat off it. I want to hand paint this top, but I am not 100% set on the design yet. So we are going to switch tacks and work on accent cushions, and hopefully the color and pattern that they bring in will help me inform my design for this. Let me bring you in closer so we can talk color. I have bought 3 accent fabrics to use in this space. So we have this wide stripe that's got a kind of organic feel to it. We have this kind of botanical print with this sort of reddy, rusty, orangey colour. And I also have this leopard print in that similar reddy orange colour. I had to choose a lot of finishes for this space before I even started working on it. And I found that really tricky. I have aphantasia, which means I don't have a mind's eye, so I literally can't visualize anything in my brain. So it's really hard to choose things without seeing them in the space and in context. So I used colour theory to help me design the colour palette. The main non-neutral colours we have here are the purple on the walls and the green from the artificial grass. Those are both secondary colours, and orange is also a secondary colour. So this is called a triadic colour scheme where the colours are equidistantly placed on the colour wheel. You may have heard me talk about complementary colours before, so those are colours on the opposite ends of the colour wheel. This is just one step up from that. So I know that by combining green, purple and orange, as long as I vary the quantities and the tones, that will naturally create a balanced and cohesive colour palette. Most of my favourite interior designs have very complex layered colour schemes where you don't really understand how it all works together, but it does. That is really hard to achieve unless you've been doing it for a very long time. So using colour theory, which is basically like colour maths, can help you create a cohesive palette without all of that experience and experimentation. In terms of the patterns I chose, it's important to have a mix of scale and a mix of visual interests. This large scale stripe is very easy on the eyes, which is why I combine that with this botanical print that has a bit more visual interest but still doesn't pull in too much of that colour. And I paired that with this even smaller scale print that has a lot more of that colour and interest. I don't know exactly how I want to use each of these patterns yet, so I have gone ahead and made all of the cushion inserts for all of the cushions in this space. So I'm going to put them on now, and then we can think about how we balance these all out. All the materials for all of these cushion inserts, by the way, cost around £75. So I think that's pretty economical. If you need to make a bunch of cushions and also want the perk of being able to make custom sizes, I would definitely recommend DIYing it. I decided to do lumbar cushions instead of like more kind of scatter cushions, even though it looks a bit more formal, because that means I can have these kind of crazier patterns and it not feel boho. And it also feels super plush, like just the amount of cushion that we're getting here. Okay, I think I've decided what pattern I want where, so let the sewing montage commence. Okay, this is what I planned for. This is what I envisioned, and yet I don't like it. It's feeling like a resort hotel, but like not in the cool, sexy way. It's feeling like a resort hotel in the like lame, generic way, and this was supposed to be the like, everything comes together moment, you know? I'm obviously not gonna leave that like that, but just to imagine that there's a bigger square pillow back there. I really need to finish this video this week and move on with my life. But I also really need to hold true to the vision, you know? It needs to be right before it's done. I have to keep going until it's right. I don't know what to do. I think I'm gonna lie on my sofa and see if anything comes to mind. Do we think I can fix this with pure willpower and stubbornness? I spent so much time fiddling and fretting about all of these cushions. I even made a new giant stripy one to see if it would fill out this corner better. And it turns out all I needed was to put a blanket here. This blanket ties in the purple from the walls and the blue from the cushions, and also some of those like reddy, rusty tones. And now I'm happy. The problem I was having is that this botanical print just didn't feel right. I think it's very high contrast, and while I think that works with the stripes because they're quite simple, with this it just didn't sit right. So I put them at the ends of the sofa, and now I don't think they're having as much of a visual impact, which is good. So much about design is feeling it out, you know, like I can talk about all the design theory in the world, but design theory and reality don't always match up. Design is all about tweaking until something feels right and trusting your gut when it doesn't. But then I just kept playing, and now I am very happy with where we've arrived. I've talked a few times now about painting a design on this table. That was the plan from the beginning. But at the moment, I just don't have the confidence that I would need to go ahead with my plan for this. I do feel slightly knocked back by the pillows, but it's more that I'm not convinced that painting this table will add to this area. Sometimes the best thing to do for a design is to step back and do nothing, and that is what I am going to do here. This is still an evolving space, you know, over time I'm going to swap things out. I might decide to paint this table eventually, but I think we've got to a state where this is a really comfortable, beautiful space to be in, and I want to stop now before I make it worse. Hey Pip, come on up. Okay, the last couple of things to do are to add some string lights around the walls to decorate the table a little bit. And if you'd like to see a ton of behind the scenes and hear what my partner really thinks about this space, please check us out on Patreon. The link will be in the description. Okay, let's do those final touches.